The Echoes of Eternity. In the year 2145, humanity was no longer confined to the cradle of Earth. The stars had become a second home, with colonies stretching from the edges of the solar system to distant moons. Yet, despite these advancements, the greatest question remained unanswered: were they alone in the universe? That answer came in a burst of static laced with a hauntingly beautiful melody, transmitted from the Andar system, a star system far beyond known human space. The signal was a mystery. At first, it seemed like random noise, but its patterns were unmistakably deliberate. Humanity's brightest minds pored over it, searching for meaning. Among them was Dr. Kaya Morgan, an astrophysicist with an unshakable reputation for cracking the most enigmatic puzzles. But Kaya wasn't just a brilliant scientist, she carried within her a gift no one else possessed. Since childhood, Kaya had been different. Her abilities and attunement to energy fields and the ability to manipulate matter at its most fundamental level were more curse than blessing. Her parents had sheltered her, fearful of what the world might do if they discovered her powers. She grew up in quiet isolation, her only friends the stars she gazed at every night. But it was this isolation that shaped her genius, driving her to look outward rather than inward. When the Andarian signal arrived, Kaya's abilities resonated with it in ways she couldn't explain. The patterns weren't just mathematical, they were alive. She felt the hum of the transmission deep within her, as though it were speaking directly to her. She worked day and night, decoding its structure, unraveling its layered complexity. When she finally broke through, she uncovered what the signal truly was: an invitation. Now, aboard the starbound Horizon, humanity's most advanced diplomatic vessel, Kaya sat quietly in her quarters. The ship hummed softly as it traveled through the final stretch of its journey to Altaris Prime, the Andarians' homeworld. Through the window, the Andar system loomed, a cluster of stars surrounded by a haze of glowing nebulae. It was beautiful, but Kaya couldn't shake her unease. The rest of the delegation buzzed with excitement. This was humanity's chance to make history, to learn from an advanced civilization that had lived among the stars for millennia. But Kaya sensed something no one else could. The Andarian signal wasn't just an invitation, it was layered with warnings, hints of danger cloaked in an elegance that only she seemed to perceive. The mission was led by Ambassador Adrian Locke, a charismatic negotiator known for his unyielding optimism. Locke believed in humanity's potential to rise above its flaws, and he had rallied the delegation with promises of a bright future. Kaya, however, kept her distance from the fanfare. She knew her role was to observe, to analyze, and, above all, to protect the secret of her abilities. As the starbound Horizon approached Altaris Prime, the planet came into view. It was unlike anything Kaya had imagined. Vast oceans shimmered with an emerald hue, and the land was dotted with colossal structures that seemed to grow organically from the ground. These towers pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light, as though they were alive. The planet radiated an energy so powerful that Kaya felt her connection to it instantly. Her abilities, which she had spent years suppressing, stirred in response. The Andarians awaited the delegation on a floating platform that hovered above one of their largest cities. They were breathtaking beings, tall, with metallic silver skin that seemed to ripple with light. Their movements were fluid, almost hypnotic, and their voices resonated with a harmonic quality that made every word feel like music. At the head of the Andarian delegation was Archon Lyrian, their leader, who welcomed the humans with a smile that was both warm and unnerving. "Welcome, travelers from Earth," Lyrian said, his voice a melody of tones that seemed to echo in the minds of those who heard it. "We are honored by your presence. Together, we shall build a bridge between our worlds." Ambassador Locke stepped forward, his polished demeanor unwavering. "On behalf of humanity, we thank you for your generosity and the opportunity to learn from your wisdom." The exchange was flawless, the words carefully rehearsed to convey diplomacy and trust. But as Kaya stood in the background, observing the interaction, she felt a strange pull. The energy of the Andarian city was unlike anything she had ever encountered. It wasn't just technological, it was alive, resonating with the same hum she had felt in the signal. She couldn't explain it, but she knew one thing: the Andarians had secrets far deeper than they were letting on. That evening, the delegation was invited to a ceremonial gathering in the heart of the city. The Andarian structures, glowing with soft light, seemed to hum with life. The air itself seemed charged, and Kaya's senses were overwhelmed by the energy surrounding her. The Andarians offered their hospitality, serving delicacies that shimmered in beverages that seemed to hum as they were poured. Kaya sat quietly, her mind racing. Every time she tried to relax, the energy of the city seemed to press against her, amplifying her powers in ways she couldn't control. She excused herself from the table and wandered out onto a balcony overlooking the sprawling city. The sight was mesmerizing, towers of light stretched into the sky, and rivers of energy coursed through the streets like liquid stars. But then it happened. A flash of light, not in the sky, but in her mind. Kaya was thrown into a vivid, overwhelming vision. She saw Earth, burning under the relentless assault of Andarian ships. Cities crumbled, and humanity's defenses were obliterated by beams of energy more powerful than anything humans had ever conceived. Amid the chaos, Kaya saw herself, a figure wreathed in raw, uncontained power, fighting back against the Andarian fleet. She hovered above the destruction, her eyes glowing with white-hot energy, her hands radiating a force that tore through the Andarian ships like paper. But even with all her power, it wasn't enough. The vision ended abruptly, leaving Kaya gasping for breath, clutching the railing of the balcony as her heart raced. She knew then that the Andarians weren't just peaceful explorers. They were something far more beneath the Andarian veil. Kaya Morgan couldn't sleep that night. The vivid vision of Earth burning under Andarian warships haunted her every thought. The clarity of the images, the rawness of the destruction, and her own unleashed powers felt too real to dismiss as a simple hallucination. She lay on the sleek cot in her quarters, staring at the glowing ceiling of the Andarian guest chamber. The hum of the city, ever present and alive, seemed louder in the stillness of the night. She couldn't ignore the feeling any longer. The Andarians' hospitality, their serene smiles, and their mesmerizing technology, it was all a facade. There was something they weren't telling the human delegation, and Kaya was determined to uncover the truth. The next morning, the delegation was given a tour of Arios, the Andarian capital city. It was a marvel of biomechanical engineering, where technology and nature intertwined seamlessly. Trees with metallic leaves pulsed with the same rhythmic glow as the buildings, and waterways coursed with liquid energy rather than water. Andarian guides explained the city's harmony with the planet's ecosystem, their pride evident in every word. Ambassador Locke and the rest of the human delegation marveled at the Andarians' accomplishments. They asked questions about the energy sources, their history, and their culture. The Andarians were forthcoming, answering every query with a practiced eloquence that only deepened Kaya's suspicion. As the group toured a towering spire that served as a research center, Kaya noticed something strange. The further they ascended, the more intense the energy felt. It pressed against her, resonating with her abilities in a way that made her skin tingle. She hung back from the group, allowing the others to continue ahead. She spotted a glowing panel embedded in the wall, its surface rippling like liquid metal. It emitted a faint hum, the same frequency she had felt in the signal that brought them here. Unable to resist, Kaya placed her hand on the panel. The moment she made contact, her mind was flooded with images, alien schematics, energy flows, and something darker, weapons. "Dr. Morgan," a voice called out, startling her. Kaya turned to see Zariel, an Andarian scientist, watching her curiously. His silver skin gleamed under the soft light, and his glowing eyes seemed to pierce through her. "You seem particularly attuned to our technology. It is rare for a human to notice the subtleties of our systems." Kaya forced a polite smile, masking her alarm. "Your technology is fascinating. I was just curious about how it all works." Zariel tilted his head, studying her. "Curiosity is a virtue, but it can also lead to danger. Our energy systems are not something humans can fully comprehend. Perhaps it is best if you remain with your group." Kaya nodded, retreating from the panel. But as she followed Zariel back to the delegation, her resolve hardened. The Andarians were hiding something, and she needed to know what it was. The warning. Later that evening, Kaya decided to confide in someone she trusted, Captain Elena Reyes, the head of security for the human delegation. Reyes was a seasoned soldier, known for her no-nonsense attitude and unwavering loyalty to the mission. Kaya found her in the observation lounge, staring out at the Andarian skyline. "Captain Reyes, Kaya began hesitantly. Can I speak with you privately? Reyes turned, her sharp eyes narrowing. What's on your mind, Dr. Morgan? Kaya hesitated. How could she explain what she had seen without sounding insane? She decided to start small. Have you noticed anything off about the Andarians? Their technology? The way they interact with us? Reyes frowned, crossing her arms. They're advanced, no doubt about that. But they've been nothing but cooperative. Why? Do you think they're hiding something? Kaya glanced around, ensuring they were alone. I do. Their energy systems, they're not just technology. They're alive, and they're connected to this planet in ways we don't understand. I touched one of their panels today, and I saw things. Schematics, weapons, visions of destruction. I think they're preparing for something, and it involves us. Reyes studied her carefully, her expression unreadable. That's a bold claim, Doctor. Do you have any proof? Kaya shook her head. Not yet. But I can feel it. There's something wrong here, and if we don't figure it out, we might be walking into a trap. Reyes sighed, rubbing her temples. You're asking me to distrust an entire civilization based on a hunch. It's more than a hunch, Kaya insisted, her voice trembling. Please, just keep an eye on them. And if you find anything unusual, let me know. Reyes nodded reluctantly. All right, Morgan. I'll keep my ears open. But if you're wrong about this... I'm not, Kaya said firmly. The artifact. That night, Kaya couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The Andarian guest chamber felt oppressive, the walls pulsating faintly with the planet's energy. She decided to take a walk, hoping the fresh air would clear her mind. As she wandered through the silent halls of the Andarian structure, she stumbled upon a door that was slightly ajar. Inside, a faint blue light pulsed rhythmically. Driven by curiosity, Kaya slipped inside. The room was unlike anything she had seen before. It was circular, with walls covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and atop it was a glowing orb, pulsating with the same energy she had felt since arriving on the planet. Kaya approached cautiously, her heart pounding. The orb seemed to call to her, its energy resonating with her own. She reached out hesitantly, and the moment her fingers brushed the surface, her mind was flooded with images once more. She saw the Andarians, not as peaceful diplomats, but as conquerors. They had visited countless worlds, their energy-based technology consuming entire planets to fuel their own civilization. The vision shifted to Earth, where the Andarians' glowing towers rose amid the ruins of human cities. Kaya saw herself again, standing amidst the destruction, her powers unleashed as she fought to protect what remained of humanity. Kaya staggered back, breaking contact with the orb. Her breathing was ragged, and her body trembled from the intensity of the vision. She knew now that the Andarians weren't what they seemed. Their kindness was a mask, hiding their true intentions. Before she could process what to do next, a voice broke the silence. You shouldn't be here, human. Kaya spun around to see Zariel standing in the doorway, his glowing eyes locked onto hers. His serene expression was gone, replaced with something cold and calculating. What is this? Kaya demanded, gesturing to the orb. Zariel stepped forward, his movements deliberate. It is the heart of our civilization. A source of life and power. But it is not for you to understand. Kaya's instincts flared, her powers stirring in response to the tension. She backed away, keeping the orb between herself and Zariel. You're lying to us. You've been lying since we arrived. What are you planning? Zariel smiled, but it was a cruel, predatory expression. You are more perceptive than I expected, Dr. Morgan. But it changes nothing. Your people came here seeking knowledge, and they will leave as part of something greater. Kaya's heart raced. She had to warn the others, but first, she needed to get out of this room alive, the fractured alliance. Kaya Morgan froze, her mind racing as Zariel stepped closer. The faint hum of the glowing orb on the pedestal seemed to intensify, syncing with the frantic rhythm of her heartbeat. She could feel the energy of the room pressing down on her, amplifying her abilities in ways she could barely control. Every instinct told her to run, but she knew she couldn't show fear. "You're hiding something," Kaya said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "This orb, your energy systems, they're not just tools or technology. They're alive, aren't they? You're feeding on this planet." Zariel tilted his head, his luminous eyes narrowing. Perceptive, as always. "The energy of Altaris Prime is the lifeblood of our civilization, yes. It sustains us, empowers us, and binds us together. But you misunderstand. We are not parasites, we are custodians." Kaya took a step back, keeping the orb between them. "Custodians? Is that what you call enslaving a world's resources and hiding the truth from us? What about Earth? What are you planning to do with my planet?" Zariel's smile turned icy. "Earth is promising. Your people have untapped potential, and your world is rich with resources. We offered peace, but peace is often a precursor to something greater. Cooperation. Integration. Evolution." "Integration?" Kaya echoed, her stomach twisting. "You mean assimilation. You'll consume Earth the same way you've consumed this planet." Zariel's gaze hardened, his patience thinning. "You misunderstand our purpose, human. We do not destroy, we elevate. Your kind has always sought to dominate and conquer. We offer something far greater, unity with the energy that binds all things. But you resist, as all primitive species do at first." Kaya's hand instinctively twitched toward the orb. Her powers surged, responding to the overwhelming energy in the room. If Zariel noticed, he didn't show it. "I won't let you take Earth," she said, her voice firm. Zariel took a step closer, his voice soft but laced with menace. "You are bold, Dr. Morgan, but you are also alone. What can one human do against an entire civilization?" Kaya's powers surged involuntarily, causing the orb to pulse brighter. A wave of energy rippled through the room, knocking Zariel off balance. Kaya took the opportunity to bolt, sprinting past him and into the corridor beyond. The escape. Kaya's mind raced as she ran through the winding hallways of the Andarian structure. The glowing walls seemed to pulse faster, as though the entire building were alive and aware of her intrusion. She knew she had limited time before Zariel raised an alarm. She needed to find Captain Reyes. If anyone could help her warn the delegation and devise a plan, it was the no-nonsense head of security. Kaya burst into the human quarters, startling Reyes, who was reviewing data on a holographic display. The captain's sharp eyes widened as Kaya stormed in, panting and flushed. "What the hell happened to you?" Reyes demanded, standing up. Kaya quickly locked the door and turned to Reyes. "We're in danger. The Andarians, they're not what they seem. They're planning to use Earth as another energy source. I saw their systems, they're alive, and they're feeding off this planet." Reyes frowned, her expression skeptical but concerned. "Slow down. What are you talking about?" Kaya explained everything, the orb, her confrontation with Zariel, and the visions she had seen since their arrival. By the time she finished, Reyes was pacing the room, her jaw clenched. "This is a hell of a claim, Morgan," Reyes said, finally stopping to face her. "But if you're right, we need to act fast. If they're planning something, we can't let them catch us off guard." Kaya nodded. "We need to warn the ambassador. He's too focused on diplomacy to see what's really happening." Reyes grabbed a communicator from her belt. "Agreed. But we need proof. Without it, Grayson won't listen. Do you think you can access their systems again? Get something tangible we can use?" Kaya hesitated. "It's risky. Zariel already suspects me, and their systems aren't like anything we've seen before. But I think I can do it." Reyes placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Then we move now. I'll cover you while you access their data. We'll get what we need and regroup with the team." The heart of the Andarians. Kaya and Reyes moved quickly, navigating the labyrinthine corridors of the Andarian structure. Reyes carried a compact energy weapon, her sharp eyes scanning every corner for potential threats. Kaya felt a surge of gratitude for the captain's unwavering determination. Their destination was a central hub Kaya had identified earlier during the tour, a nexus where the Andarian energy systems converged. If there was any place to find proof of their intentions, it was there. As they approached the hub, Kaya felt the now familiar hum of the Andarian energy growing stronger. The air itself seemed charged, and her powers stirred in response. She clenched her fists, focusing on maintaining control. The hub was a vast, circular chamber, its walls lined with glowing panels that pulsed in rhythm with the orb Kaya had touched earlier. In the center of the room was a massive energy conduit, its surface swirling with vibrant colors. Kaya approached one of the panels, her fingers trembling as she activated the interface. The Andarian language flowed across the surface, but her abilities allowed her to interpret it instinctively. She delved deeper, navigating layers of encrypted data until she found what she was looking for. Her breath caught as the truth unfolded before her. Detailed schematics showed the Andarians' plan to deploy energy harvesting towers across Earth, connecting them to a central conduit that would siphon the planet's life force. Accompanying the schematics were records of previous planets they had integrated, each one left barren and lifeless after the Andarians had taken what they needed. Kaya downloaded the data onto a secure device, her hands shaking. She turned to Reyes. "I've got it. This is all the proof we need." Reyes nodded, her expression grim. "Good. Now let's get out of here before." An alarm blared, cutting her off. The walls lit up with a red glow, and a mechanical voice spoke in the Andarian language. "They know we're here," Kaya said, her stomach sinking. Reyes raised her weapon, her eyes sharp. "Then we fight our way out." The chase. The corridors of the Andarian structure became a maze of flashing lights and echoing alarms. Andarian guards appeared, their fluid movements unnerving as they pursued Kaya and Reyes. Reyes fired precise shots, her weapon releasing bursts of energy that sent the guards stumbling. "Keep moving," she shouted, covering Kaya as they ran. Kaya felt her powers surging, responding to the heightened tension. She focused on the energy around her, using it to create a barrier that deflected an incoming projectile. The effort left her breathless, but she pushed forward, determined to reach the delegation. The pair burst into the human quarters, where the rest of the team had gathered in confusion. Ambassador Locke stepped forward, his expression a mix of anger and concern. "What is going on?" Kaya handed him the device, her voice firm. "Proof. The Andarians aren't peaceful, they're parasites. They plan to strip Earth of its resources just like they've done to every other planet they've visited." Locke stared at the data, his face pale as he processed the implications. "We need to leave. Now." Reyes nodded. "Agreed. But they won't let us go without a fight." As the alarms grew louder, Kaya felt the weight of the mission pressing down on her. The Andarians had underestimated her, but she knew this was only the beginning. The fight for Earth had just begun. The Andarian betrayal. The Starbound Horizons crew had been caught off guard. The alarms that reverberated through the Andarian capital of Arios were not just a warning, they were a declaration. Kaya Morgan and Captain Elena Reyes stood at the center of the chaos, surrounded by the delegation. Their revelation about the Andarians' true intentions had shattered the fragile sense of diplomacy that had held them together. Ambassador Adrian Locke, normally calm and collected, now looked pale and tense as he examined the schematics Kaya had uncovered. The weight of the data was undeniable. The Andarians had been planning Earth's assimilation since their first transmission, a carefully orchestrated deception cloaked in promises of peace and cooperation. "We need to leave this planet immediately," Locke said, his voice firm. "If we stay, we'll be their next targets." Reyes adjusted the grip on her weapon, her sharp gaze scanning the room. "They won't let us leave without a fight. We're already surrounded." Kaya's powers thrummed beneath her skin, resonating with the pulsing energy of the Andarian city. She could feel the planet itself reacting to the confrontation, its rhythms growing faster and more erratic. The energy wasn't just alive, it was angry. They're drawing power from the planet, Kaya said, her voice urgent. The energy systems here aren't just tools, they're part of the planet's life force. If we try to fight them head-on, they'll overwhelm us. Locke nodded grimly. Then we need to outsmart them. Reyes, can you secure a path to the horizon? I can try, Reyes said. But their security forces are unlike anything we've dealt with before. They move like they're part of the environment. We'll need to stay one step ahead. The Andarian Ultimatum. As the humans debated their next move, a holographic projection flickered to life in the center of the room. Archon Lyrian appeared, his serene expression replaced with one of cold authority. Humans, Lyrian said, his voice resonating like a melody turned sour. You have violated our trust. Your intrusion into restricted areas and theft of sacred data cannot be tolerated. Locke stepped forward, his jaw set. You speak of trust while planning to strip Earth of its life force. You've been deceiving us from the start. Lyrian's glowing eyes narrowed. Deception? No. We offered you enlightenment, a chance to join us in harmony with the energy that sustains all life. But your primitive minds see only fear and destruction. Kaya couldn't hold back. Enlightenment? You've destroyed every planet you've integrated. I've seen the evidence. You're parasites, feeding off worlds until nothing is left. You won't do the same to Earth. Lyrian's expression darkened. Your defiance is regrettable. We had hoped to avoid conflict, but your species has proven unworthy of trust. Surrender now, and we may yet show mercy. Locke glanced at Kaya and Reyes, then back at Lyrian. We'll never surrender. Humanity doesn't bow to tyrants. The hologram flickered out, and the room fell into tense silence. Escape through the spire. The delegation moved quickly, Reyes taking point with Kaya close behind. The Andarian city had transformed into a labyrinth of flashing lights and echoing alarms. Andarian security forces, tall, fluid figures of metallic energy appeared at every turn, their movements unnervingly synchronized. Kaya's powers surged again, her connection to the planet's energy deepening. She could feel the Andarians manipulating the energy fields around them, using the planet's life force to power their defenses. She clenched her fists, focusing on maintaining control. As they reached a junction, a squad of Andarian guards blocked their path. Reyes raised her weapon, firing bursts of concentrated energy that forced the guards to retreat, but their movements were unnaturally fast, as though they anticipated every attack. They're adapting, Reyes muttered. We can't keep this up. Kaya stepped forward, her hands glowing faintly as she reached out with her powers. She felt the energy flowing through the walls, the floors, even the guards themselves. With a surge of concentration, she disrupted the flow, causing the guards to falter. Go! Kaya shouted. The delegation pushed through, Reyes giving Kaya a brief nod of respect as they ran. A desperate gamble. As they neared the docking platform where the starbound horizon waited, the delegation faced their greatest challenge yet. The Andarians had activated a massive energy barrier, blocking access to the ship. Beyond the barrier, Andarian ships hovered ominously, their sleek designs pulsating with power. We're out of time, Reyes said, scanning the area. We need a way through that barrier, or we're done. Kaya stared at the barrier, her mind racing. The energy was the same as the orb she had touched, alive, reactive, and incredibly powerful. But she also sensed a weakness, a point where the energy flows converged. I can disable it, Kaya said, stepping forward. Locke looked at her in alarm. How? That barrier could kill you. Kaya turned to face him, her expression resolute. I don't have a choice. This is the only way to get us out of here. Reyes placed a hand on her shoulder. Are you sure about this, Morgan? Kaya nodded. I've been connected to their energy since we arrived. I can disrupt it, but you'll need to be ready to move as soon as it drops. Reyes hesitated, then stepped back. Do what you have to do. Kaya approached the barrier, her hands trembling as she extended them toward the glowing wall. She felt the energy push back against her, alive and aware of her intrusion. She closed her eyes, focusing on the resonance she had felt since arriving on Altaris Prime. With a deep breath, she channeled her powers, disrupting the energy flows with a surge of raw force. The barrier flickered, then collapsed in a cascade of light. "Go!" Kaya shouted, her voice strained from the effort. The final push. The delegation sprinted toward the starbound horizon, but the Andarians weren't done. More guards appeared, their metallic forms moving with unnatural speed. Reyes and her security team opened fire, holding them back as the delegation boarded the ship. Kaya was the last to reach the ramp, her body trembling from the strain of using her powers. As she turned to follow, she saw Zariel standing in the distance, his glowing eyes fixed on her. "You cannot run forever, human," Zariel said, his voice carrying across the chaos. "You are part of this now, whether you accept it or not." Kaya met his gaze, her own eyes glowing faintly with energy. "We'll see about that." With that, she boarded the ship, and the ramp closed behind her. The flight to freedom. The starbound horizon roared to life, its engines igniting as it lifted off the platform. Andarian ships pursued, their sleek forms glowing with energy, but the horizon's advanced defenses held them at bay. Kaya collapsed into a seat, her body aching from the effort of using her powers. Reyes sat beside her, a rare smile on her face. "You did good, Morgan," Reyes said. Kaya managed a weak smile. "This isn't over. They'll come for us, and for Earth." Reyes nodded. "Then we'll be ready." As the horizon broke through Altaris Prime's atmosphere, Kaya stared out the window at the planet below. She knew this was just the beginning. The Andarians had revealed their true nature, and humanity would need every ounce of ingenuity, resilience, and strength to stand against them. But for now, they had escaped. And Kaya was determined to ensure that Earth would never fall. The gathering storm. The starbound horizon hurtled through space, its engines straining against the pull of Andarian gravity fields. Inside the ship, the tension was palpable. The once excited delegation, now battered and shaken, sat in uneasy silence as alarms blared in the background. Captain Elena Reyes stood in the command center, barking orders to her crew as they worked to outmaneuver the pursuing Andarian fleet. Kaya Morgan leaned against a bulkhead, her body still recovering from the energy she had expended to disable the barrier. Her mind, however, was racing. She had seen the Andarians' plans. The intricate schematics and chilling details of their planetary assimilation process. They wouldn't stop until Earth was reduced to a lifeless husk. "We've got 3 of their ships on our tail," Reyes said, turning to Ambassador Locke. "If we don't shake them soon, they'll disable our engines." Locke's face was pale but resolute. "We can't let them capture us. If they do, everything we know, everything we've gathered, it'll all be lost." Kaya straightened, her resolve hardening. "We can use their energy against them," she said, her voice firm. Reyes raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Kaya stepped closer to the command console, gesturing to the holographic display of the Andarian ships. "Their technology relies on a synchronized energy network. It's powerful, but it's also vulnerable. If we disrupt the flow at a critical point, we can create a feedback loop that will disable their systems, temporarily, at least." Reyes studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Do it. Whatever you need, we'll make it happen." Kaya's fingers danced over the controls, her mind racing to calculate the variables. The energy fields she had felt on Altaris Prime were still present, like an invisible web connecting the Andarian ships. She could sense the rhythm of their systems, the way they pulsed in unison. "Divert power to the rear emitters," Kaya said, her voice sharp. "I'll need a focused energy burst at these coordinates." She highlighted a point on the display, where the Andarian ships' formations overlapped. Reyes relayed the command, and the ship's systems hummed as power was rerouted. Kaya closed her eyes, focusing on the energy around her. She extended her awareness, feeling the flow of Andarian power as if it were an extension of her own senses. With a deep breath, she unleashed a surge of her own energy through the ship's systems. The horizon's emitters fired, sending a concentrated burst of energy into the Andarian formation. The feedback loop was immediate, an explosion of light and sound that sent the pursuing ship spiraling out of control. "We're clear," one of the crew members shouted. Reyes clapped Kaya on the shoulder. "Impressive work, Morgan. Remind me to never underestimate you again." Kaya managed a faint smile, but the victory felt hollow. The Andarians would regroup, and when they did, they would come with even greater force. A call for unity. Hours later, the Horizon slipped into the shadow of a nearby asteroid field, using its dense rock formations to hide from Andarian sensors. The crew finally had a moment to breathe, but the atmosphere remained tense. Ambassador Locke gathered the senior members of the delegation in the conference room, including Kaya and Reyes. The holographic display in the center of the table flickered to life, showing Earth's distant image. "We're at a crossroads," Locke began, his voice heavy with responsibility. "The Andarians won't stop. They've targeted Earth, and it's only a matter of time before they arrive in force. We need to warn our leaders, but more importantly, we need a plan to defend ourselves." Reyes crossed her arms. "Earth isn't ready for this kind of threat. Our military technology is decades behind theirs. Even with what we've learned, it won't be enough." Kaya leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "It doesn't have to be. The Andarians rely on their energy systems, but those systems are vulnerable. We've seen it firsthand. If we can disrupt their network on a larger scale, we might stand a chance." Locke frowned. "You're suggesting we use their own technology against them?" Kaya nodded. "Exactly. But it's not just about technology. The Andarians are connected to their energy systems on a fundamental level. If we can find a way to sever that connection, we can level the playing field." Reyes tapped the table thoughtfully. "It's a gamble, but it's better than waiting for them to wipe us out. Do we have any leads on how to disrupt their network?" Kaya hesitated, then spoke. "There's something I need to tell you. When I was on Altaris Prime, I felt connected to their energy. It's hard to explain, but I could sense it, manipulate it. I think I can help us find a way to break their network, but it's going to take everything I've got." The room fell silent. Locke studied Kaya, his expression unreadable. "You're saying you have abilities that can interface with Andarian energy?" Kaya nodded, her heart pounding. She had kept her powers hidden for so long, but now there was no turning back. "Yes. And I'm willing to use them, if it means protecting Earth." Locke leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing. "This changes things. If the Andarians know what you're capable of, they'll come after you with everything they've got." Reyes spoke up, her voice firm. "Then we protect her. If Morgan's abilities are our best chance at stopping the Andarians, we can't afford to lose her." Kaya met Reyes's gaze, gratitude and determination shining in her eyes. "Thank you. But I'm not the only one who needs protection. If we're going to win this, we need to unite military, scientists, leaders. Everyone. The Andarians thrive on division, but if we stand together, we can fight back." Locke nodded slowly. "You're right. We'll send a transmission to Earth, warning them of the threat and outlining a plan for resistance. But we'll need allies, other colonies, outposts, anyone willing to fight. A beacon of hope." The delegation worked tirelessly over the next several hours, crafting a transmission that would rally humanity. Kaya provided detailed analyses of the Andarian energy systems, while Reyes coordinated with the Horizon's crew to ensure the message could be broadcast securely. As the transmission was sent, Kaya felt a spark of hope. Humanity had faced impossible odds before: plagues, wars, natural disasters. And had always found a way to endure. This time would be no different. But deep down, she knew the real battle was yet to come. The Andarians weren't just a threat to Earth, they were a threat to every species that valued freedom and individuality. As the Horizon prepared to leave the asteroid field, Kaya stood at the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The journey ahead would be perilous, but she was ready. For the first time in her life, she felt truly connected, not just to the energy that pulsed around her, but to the people who stood beside her. The fight for Earth was only the beginning.